Hello, everyone. Welcome to SEO UnMasked, episode number 59. Today is February 14th, 2019. Happy to have you with us. As always, I'm Garrett Groff.
I'm Vindaletta.
Steve Brownlee.
I'm glad we're getting better at that.
Yeah.
What's
See
up,
with you
boys?
guys.
I
just got done bitching at Verizon, but
sounds like a fun morning.
yeah.
I just ordered a Pomodoro timer because I am very much working on my productivity because sleep has become a something that I don't get much of. So next week we're starting the Pomodoro technique, which is basically 25 minutes of work separated by 5-minute breaks all day long. Let's see how that goes. Apparently, it's going to boost my productivity pretty well.
I don't think I would like it.
No.
I like to work like in uncontrolled, like really intense, non-stop, without a break segments, and then just kind of meander around thinking about stuff for an hour without really doing anything. Then come back and sit down again.
Hey, someone's saying we have an echo in the YouTube.
Is it all of us or?
I think it may have been me because I had my speakers on. But
okay.
Wow, we got 7 watchers right now. Maybe we should do midday shows all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a better time for me because I can go to bed at the normal time if we don't do it at 1 in the morning and stuff for me. So
yeah. This is actually pretty cool. Well, hey everybody, welcome to the show if you're new, for sure.
We're gonna have a really short travel discussion this week because I just have one question for Vin while I'm looking at the strategy. So your hotel points, you said, were coming next week. So you'll book the hotel next week.
Yeah, the statement date is tomorrow. So I'll book. We're doing this for SEO Bright in September, correct?
That's right.
Yeah. So
well, I've given you the blog post, so you can see.
You should actually get the Hilton points as soon as you hit the spend requirement.
They don't transfer
you should
them
get
to
them.
account though. He's got the points. He just hasn't got them transferred to Hilton.
Oh, they're not at Hilton yet?
They showed up.
I got mine right away.
I just booked another hotel thing tonight on Hilton, and the 105,000 points are in the account already.
Oh, cool. So I'll send you the link again.
Yeah,
with my blog post.
And then by our next show, we could release the blog post or whatever.
Yeah, I'll send it to you though, because it's got the instructions for what to do if you want a different room type and you haven't quite got enough points and stuff like that.
Cool, man.
So my question then for the next stage is, so basically a return flight in economy to Brighton is going to be like $400 to $600 if you paid cash. What is your preference, to pay slightly more than that and get like a $4,000 business class flight, or pay less than that and just save money?
I'm sorry. What was the first thing you said? It's
right. So if you just booked a flight as like a normal person and paid cash, it's going to be like $400 to $800 return to go in economy.
I definitely don't want to be in economy. I definitely want to be in business class or better.
The problem is,
so we'll give you the option for that then, which I've also found. So we'll run through that next week when we're doing your card applications.
Yeah,
cool, man.
Because I've been trying to get a flight straightened away for September, and pricing is absolutely ridiculous right now.
I got
Steve, why don't you catch up all the newbies to the show about what we're doing here?
So we're getting Vim to brighten SEO in style and for as little money as possible. I will also be presenting semi-free options for those of you who don't want to pay the little bit extra to go business class. But Vin obviously wants to come in style, so he'll be on some kind of nice seat. I found him what looked like some pretty cool options for the business class trip using points and miles. So we'll cover that in a bit more detail with him on next week's show. And any of you who play along and who are at Brighton, so BB says she's coming, make sure to give us a shout near the time, because we'll be having a dinner for people that watch the show. We'll get priority to get get their place on the dinner. So we'll be inviting you guys on the show first, and then opening it up to other people we know. So if you want to come along for dinner with us, we'll be paying, of course. Keep watching the show as Brighton gets closer. But that's the idea, really, just to show how you can get over to one of the biggest conferences in the world, even if you're in America, and you can do it in style and not spend very much money. We're doing Venice case study. So he's done his hotel already, and the blog post explaining everything we did for that will be going up next week after he's booked. And then we're going to do his flights, and the same thing again. We'll give him the advice on the air, and then a fully detailed blog post about it a couple of weeks after he's booked his flights.
I'm excited, for sure.
Cool.
And also, if you didn't watch last week, we also have an official date for our 24 Hours of SEO charity event. It's going to be February 28th, starting at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, and it'll end around 24 hours later. So 10 a.m. Central Standard Time on March 1st.
Yeah, we got some good speakers lined up so far. We got Thomas Small from FE International, Paul Shapiro's coming back, Jeff Coyle from Market Muse, Nick Eubanks is coming back, Oliver Whitham from WordPress Engine, WP Engine, yep. Gregory Elfrink from Empire Flippers is going to join us. Jared Hobbs is coming back again. Got a few more people we're waiting on to confirm, and we have some more slots to fill up, so it should be a
and guys, to be completely clear, we're giving away free, valuable information during this conference, but the goal is to raise money for the charity. We all make our money, but we got to give back sometimes. So we kind of failed with our goal last year. We wanted to raise about 15,000 last year, and we only raised about 5,000. This year we're
nearly six, including merch.
We're shooting for 25,000 this year. So if you can give $25, $50, $100, it's not going to put you out. We all know it's not going to put you out, and it's going to go to a good cause.
And remember, you pay $900 to come to a conference with these exactly same speakers. So giving $100 to the charity to make it worth their while doing this every year, especially, our supporters like Nick Eubanks that comes back every year. Last year, he came on in the middle of a massive merger when he was buying 2 agencies, and he still gave up his time to give what was one of the favorite presentations last year. Definitely one of the higher rated ones and most viewed afterwards. So they're giving up a lot of their time, putting a lot of work into presentations that they would normally give at, $1,000 conference, and you're getting it for free. All they're asking, along with us, is that you chip, what you think it would be worth if you were buying the conference, so $100, something like that. Give that to the charity. The link will be available at the time. 24hoursofseo.com if you want to put your name down on the emailing list. The new site's going to be going up on Monday with the information about the new event once we've finalized a couple more of the presenters. It's going to be a really good event again. This time, because of my need to keep taking food breaks and stuff last time, I'll be staying in a nice suite at the Manchester Marriott, because I'm up at the if anyone else is up there, actually, I'm at the Marketing Show North event in Manchester the day before. So I'm just going to stay over at the Marriott for the next day and do the show from there with room service, so that Garrett doesn't get abandoned as much as last time when I'm eating.
Nice.
I'll have to get room service. So
one thing I think I'm going to do, like 12, I think I'm going to do like 8 hours here, and then be at home for the rest. So we'll just have to coordinate that slightly. It only takes me 15 minutes to get home, but
yeah. And I'm being the big baby.
Just travel during one of the presentations, and just leave it on.
Yeah.
Leave it on your phone on audio so you can hear what's going on while you're driving.
And I'm the big baby, so I'm buying myself out of the 24-hour requirement.
Yeah, Vin made a big buyout.
But I'll be around for most of the day. I get pretty shot after like 2 hours. I need a break, but I'll be around, and I'm doing a late night. He's
taken one of the graveyard shifts along with us, and Vin's was pretty popular last year. So if you're thinking about going to bed, stay awake for our 2 presentations after midnight, because I'm going to be going over with Garrett how you can optimize your agency for points, miles, and travel. And you'll be amazed how much money the average agency spends that you could be earning travel with. And some of the ways you can earn it, especially if you've got an office. If you've got an office and you're not earning points and miles on your stationery, for example, and there's going to be loads more tips like that, where you're not going to pay for a family holiday again if you have a mid-sized agency. I mean, we don't have an office. We don't have employees sort of sitting around and pens and paper and printer ink. So we miss out on some of that stuff, but I'll be able to share for some of you guys that are running just slightly bigger shops with offices and see clients and things like that, how to really make some serious number of points. And even one-man bands, the Facebook advertising thing's becoming a thing that a lot of small agencies are really big on. If you're not earning points on all of your ad spends and stuff like that, you're just wasting valuable free travel for you and your family. And when you see the photos of Vin lazing in business class on his way to Brighton, just remember it's your own fault, because he's only going to end up spending like $1,000 or something to travel on a $4,000 flight. So
yeah, it'll be great for sure. Cool. So why don't we jump into news? So what's the goal for our daytime show? Do we want to contain this to like the lunch hour?
Yeah, we'll just keep this pretty crunchy to
Okay.
wrap it up. We haven't got much news this week anyway, so I guess we'll be finished in about half an hour, 40 minutes anyway. So
cool. All right, who's got? Well, this one's kind of exciting. Google's. I never know how to say his last name. Gary
Ills
explains how rank brain works. So I skimmed through this one. It looks like they're giving us another definition that doesn't really explain to us what it actually does. What do you guys think?
I mean, it's pretty close to
Google answer.
I think it's pretty close to what we thought, though. I mean, they were pretty clear at the beginning. It was to do with answering unanswered queries. And then now he's just reiterating that it's not all this weird stuff that people are making up that it does. It looks at how people reacted to when they had to guess a SERP before, and tries to do a better job of delivering a better experience all the time using months-old data. Which is obviously a time to analyze.
That X percentage of long tail searches that Google has never seen before every day, it's basically taking those and doing a better job at serving the best results for those new queries.
And it makes sense to use machine learning for that, because you think about it, when you search for something really weird and there's only 2 good results on the page, as a human agent, we're intelligent enough to look at the results and know which 2 might have our answer. Yeah. So Google can actually learn a lot from us on those queries that they just don't understand at all the first time they get it. And he kind of jokingly says, I think somewhere in this, before it used to be, oh, the word not's in there, so let's just rip all of this out. And that wasn't always the original human searcher's intent, and RankBrain's letting them understand more. Well, letting the machine understand more. I don't know if any individual Google engineer understands more. It lets the machine understand more what the person might actually respond to.
Yeah.
So it might not. The beauty of it is it doesn't even need to understand the search query better. Like, they don't have to get better at language processing. Obviously, they are. You can tell that through some of the things it can answer now that it couldn't answer 20 years ago, or 10 years ago even. I don't know. That's probably using a dog pile 20 years ago. It just has to get better at putting results up that human users respond well to. It doesn't need to know why they're responding better. It just needs to know this is working. We're getting better at returning results for
so that kind of opens the door to the question of what's all this talk about UX signals, relevance, freshness updates, all the things that people were applying through RankBrain. There's weight behind those statements, because people are seeing better rankings with.
Well, I don't think they're in RankBrain necessarily. I mean,
it's probably part of the core algorithm rather than the machine learning algorithm.
I think query demands freshness has long been known to be a standalone part of the algorithm. Some queries do demand freshness, like election result. If you're the day after the presidential election, Google doesn't want to return that Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton last time round. People want to know what the Whereas if you just search for something like what is titanium, then it would want to return the most authoritative piece with the most citations from other authorities, rather than the most current piece. Like your new article that's 500 words about titanium is crap compared to the most authoritative piece on the topic, whereas the most authoritative piece about the election result is crap compared with the breaking news. So I think in terms of freshness, and you can play that same game for all those other points you made. I think saying they're not in RankBrain doesn't mean they're not in the algorithm core. But of course, the thing to remember is that RankBrain can take those things into account independently without any Google engineer tuning it, because it has all the inputs. All it's trying to do is work out what results users are responding better to. If for a particular combination of words or type of question that Google doesn't fully understand, RankBrain determines that freshness is important, then freshness will be weighted higher by RankBrain when it's deciding which ones to return. So you can't rule out. If anyone wants to read more about this kind of stuff, there's a book called Weapons of Math Destruction.
You mentioned that before.
Yeah. Read that, because it goes into a lot more how these algorithms actually work and the unintended effects. And because I think a lot of people get confused and think Google's setting out these deliberate, oh, we're going to deliberately do this, we're going to deliberately do that. And they get too caught up in obsessing about testing things around patents. And whereas if you just take a step back and think about the searcher, like we always say, there's no math in the book, BB. If you take a step back and think about what the searcher wants, that's what Google's trying to deliver. So are the changes you're making what the searcher wants will get you to the correct answer quicker than $40,000 worth of really complicated SEO tests, which might get you a short-term tactical advantage, but you know, who's playing that game except people in the payday loan space? You know, we're trying to build for the long term here, most of us, and especially if you've got agency clients, you don't want to be putting cutting edge changes that some weird test worked on. Like imagine if you charged your clients for authorship and started building up their author rank and stuff back in the authorship thing, because that was definitely a thing. You got better click-through rate. It was so short term. Imagine if you charged your clients $40,000 for an authorship based authority campaign, and then Google pulled the plug on it. You don't want to be quite that cutting edge when you're trying to just do long-term stuff and build for your clients. That's my kind of take on it.
Cool. Yeah, I think that most people just understood the purpose when they started hearing like buzzwords like AI and machine learning, and they just assumed a lot of things. And it's not to say that those technologies aren't being used in the core algorithm. It's just not being used within RankBrain as heavily as everybody assumed.
Well, RankBrain is probably going to have more factors than the core algorithm, because the core algorithm, they have to bake something in, test it, see if that was a good idea. RankBrain tests itself as it goes, so it could have, they can just throw, there was a discussion about it on Twitter, the people talking about this on Twitter kind of were bringing that up. Like they can just throw ranking factors in RankBrain that humans would never think would be a sensible ranking factor, but they can then just let RankBrain see if it is a useful factor.
Yeah.
For these queries.
Well,
and they'll because we're not always right about what impacts something, are we? I mean, we can think, oh, I think if we did this to, well, conversion rate optimization tells you all you need to know about how good we are at figuring out what we should put on a page and how people are going to behave. Because just about every conversion rate test done ends up with no impact. I mean, I loved going. I went to one of these online conversion rate conferences, and they showed, one guy showed like 100 tests they did, and they all looked like they won after the initial test period, but they just let them keep running, and loads of them reverted to the mean by the time the test had finished. So this is why there's all these jokers out there running these CRO agencies, and they're telling their clients, oh, this one was a 20% win, this one was a 10% win, and at the end of the year, the client looks at their numbers and they've got no extra money because they all reverted to the mean. You've got to be quite lucky to deduce something just by random chance that's going to get you results. You have to have some extra data research strategy behind picking the tests, and RankBrain doesn't need that. It can just test whatever it wants because it's got unlimited amount of data and testing. So it's got quite a big advantage over human engineers trying to guess what a good test would be.
I'm interested in seeing what the SEO echo chamber derives from this over the next week or two. Well, because that there's going to be different theories coming about after this article.
I think Rand's already said that he believes that this article proves everything he said was right, because no one knows what RankBrain considers. Therefore, all the things he thinks it considers must be in there. I think that was his tweet about this. So
interesting.
That can just be the Rand of the week ahead of time, because I didn't find one specifically, but that's the Rand of the week. So uncertainty means Rand is right.
Yeah, I mean it cooks on the top. There's a word coming up where the dogs do not like bread.
Exactly.
Okay. YouTube video embeds mean what changes to YouTube video embeds mean for your business?
So yeah, let's say I have a YouTube video embedded on a page. Typically, they didn't show more videos for you to watch, or the viewer to watch afterwards, and some people are upset because now, let's say someone took the time to actually watch the whole YouTube video on your page, they might click a next one to watch and go to YouTube and probably not come back to your site.
It's not just that, it's the you can customize it somewhat to only show things from your channel, but what they pointed out was some people would have like a sales video, and then it would be the recommended viewing would be like a support video for a different product. It's really kind of random. And then of course, if someone does click on one, the next suggested video might be your competitor, it might be a music video, anything to keep you on YouTube. And then you go off down the rabbit hole of not really doing anything like YouTube is so good at, and you don't come back to the site originally. So, and I think it's a really good point for, I mean, this isn't a criticism of YouTube. I think Wistia is really fair about how they break it down. It's just the fact that that's YouTube's business. And maybe it's not the best idea for you to host.
There's a guy in the comments named Andrew saying, pretty good idea, embed just a single video, embed a playlist, and then choose which video is going to play. So the next video, or their options to choose from, is going to be one of your videos anyways. And that will... Well,
they covered that in the article, but if you don't want them to watch any other video, like we were just talking about CRO, the last thing you want is people having choices on a conversion optimized page. So your Wistia video that goes straight to an opt-in is going to be more effective than, and I'm saying Wistia, that there are other competitors, of course.
Vimeo is the first one that comes to
Vimeo,
mind.
exactly.
I mean, that's pretty important, I think. Just doing content publishing sites, I try to integrate other people's videos into as much of my content as possible. But if it's going to start siphoning off my traffic, I'm going to have to find other sources for videos that don't do that.
What I would like to see is a test with the where whenever you embed a video, it's always in a light box when people watch it. Because I think the number of people who will click off to close the light box before it gets even to the, when they see the time bar running out, they finish watching the video and click back to your article will be higher than the number of people who sit and wait for it to finish and then look at the options YouTube gives.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see if that's a way for people like in Vin's situation, who are using it to supplement their articles and information resources, if they can keep more people on the page by lightboxing it, and people will just close the lightbox more often than they'll sit there. Whereas if it's on the page, everyone sits there because it just finishes regardless. Like even if you start reading as the video starts wrapping up, the thing will still pop up and catch your eye again with all the, whereas if you close the lightbox, it's gone.
Is Google going to render the information within the lightbox as part of your on-page content?
Well, it would. Well, if you lightbox the YouTube video, it'll just show as normal as if it was on the page. If someone does watch to the end, Gotcha. If they click off the white box, it's gone, and
gotcha.
they're back. I would just like to see that tested in that situation, see what it does, because obviously you have to use YouTube, because people who've uploaded their videos on an embed allowed share and share alike license, they're available for you to use in the way Vin describes. You can just embed them in your content, and they don't mind because they're getting the views and the money from YouTube. YouTube doesn't. You can't just steal people's videos and put them on Wistia because you don't want YouTube to show a roll at the end. So for some uses, it's unavoidable. So I'd be interested if that's a solution that helps reduce the leakage.
Cool. Yeah, it seems like there's always, it's just the nature of the game, right? There's always these little hiccups that pop up almost monthly at this point that you have to find workarounds for. But
yeah, I mean, Google's just trying to take a bit more of the pie because that's their job.
Yeah. Well, hey, this Bill Hartzer tweet, I think we covered this last week, right? And same thing with the Jerry White tweet.
We got some.
I remember talking about AMP briefly, but it was still pinned in our channel, so I don't know. I forgot to pin it last week.
If you want to go over.
Yeah, we covered Google Search Console.
Cool.
What's the other one?
And then the top 100 SEO losers.
Oh, we definitely covered those too.
Oh.
But we have a new roundtable article about algorithm updates. It's like our weekly algorithm update.
Has there been an update this time, boys?
Well, you know what? Me and Jared were talking about this yesterday, and there was some kind of fluctuation on the 7th and then also on the 12th. But it seemed like so minimal. Like, I don't even know why people bother like worrying about these little blips on the radar. Have you guys seen anything?
I mean, I'm looking again to make sure I didn't glance over something, but
yeah, I mean, a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, we had a little dip on one of our sites that just bounced straight back a week later. So I don't know. I mean, this stuff, but that's just normal. Like, you see that all the time. So
yeah,
and it was small, like 8% or something.
I mean, actually, from February 7th, I took a quick dip down for a couple days, and now I'm up about 25% for the past 5 days over my averages prior to February 7th. But I don't know if that's an update or just because I've been posting new content and it's just, you know, the natural course of business.
Yeah, I think if you just keep on trucking. I mean, I will say one thing I've noticed is we've started to get reports of sites buying hacked links getting wiped out. I won't out the site because the guy kind of came to me, not as a client, but anonymously, just with his site to have a look. And we're talking 90+% traffic loss. And the only thing really you could see in his backlink profile or content that wasn't normal was the hacked links. But I think one thing people need to be careful with, and you know, like I say, I've got no problem with you doing black hat stuff on your own site. But if you're buying a batch of links and a whole bunch of them are from 10 years before your site even existed, in articles from 2009 or this kind of stuff on sites that haven't been updated since 2013.
Yeah,
that's actually, you know, Google's doing a really bad job of catching hack links, but I'd imagine those ones are going to be super easy for them to catch when it's just they don't make any sense from a typical website point of view.
Our conversation about this yesterday led me right into that conversation about hacked links. And even in my own niche, which is not very competitive from an SEO standpoint, there's at least one big player that's using very black hat link building methods. And they've been around for about 2 years longer than my site has, and doesn't even look like Google has a sniff of what the hell they're doing. So it's a little disheartening.
Well, it takes up to 2.5 years for Google to catch you if you do the most black hat stuff.
Yeah.
because we had that finance site where we haven't done much Black Hat stuff ever. We had one finance site that we just did all the Sherlock does Google and all the bullshit, and it was 2.5 years before it got a manual penalty.
Yeah.
So I think some of these people will have a good ride, but you see the graph of the site that I was shown, and it was rocketing, and then just there's a point comes and suddenly it's just losing traffic every single day for 6 months until it's down to just 1,000 visits a month.
Yeah, I mean, even after I sold my website in 2016, me and my partner on that site, we built 3 other sites immediately using the same tactics from that time, which was PBN link building. And those sites, I kind of abandoned, not because they were doing poorly, but because I wanted to focus on a more long-term white hat option. But those sites are still viable, and they're making me like thousands of dollars a month, and I haven't touched them since the early 2017. And they're sitting on, a platform of hundreds of PBN links. So,
well, I mean, I feel like PBNs is less shady than hack links because, PBNs, you're just playing the game with Google. And I mean, I have no experience at PBNs at all. It's so hard to do it cleanly. I wouldn't even know how to start building a network. So I've got no interest in learning something short term but it doesn't do anyone any harm. Whereas hacking people's sites that don't know about it is, I'd like to see Google having that a little bit higher on their radar because it's directly harming people that have got no part of the game.
Yeah. Makes sense to me.
People like you that are making $1,000 here and there from some old PBNs or something is not really a major a major penalty to the world or damage to the universe or whatever. Whereas if you were out there hacking people's sites, it's like, wow, this guy needs a punch in the balls.
I met this dude from a traffic think tank a couple weeks back, and he's a character, man. He was really funny. His name is Paul. And I think that he builds PBN networks for like corporate entities currently. And he was telling me some of the numbers that they spend on an individual network. And it's still good money. And apparently it's still working very well for him. So I still think PBNs are viable, but it's a totally different skill set at this point. But as far as the hack links, yeah, that's just fucking garbage. And I hate that it works.
Yeah. Well, it works for now, but no one... I mean, if you get your site sold before it all unwinds, then, good luck to you and all that. But if you're trying to build a site that you want to keep for 10 years or something, then, yeah, it's probably not going to work out for you because at some point, well, it's going to end up in the press, isn't it? Like at some point, someone who's been hacked is going to get someone to write about it.
Right.
You've seen all the stories about the Facebook advertising, the ad click fraud, all this kind of stuff making the press now. They'll get bored of that and be looking for the next thing, and someone will stumble onto it, and then Google will have to do something. And you will be caught up in it, and you've made a few $1,000s a month out of it for a little while. It's like, wow. Yeah. Now you're back to square one. And you got to remember, those of you who haven't been around in the industry long enough, there was loads of black hat stuff that worked super well. And some of those guys ended up with no money afterwards. I mean, Joe Sinkwitz, who was on the 24 Hours last year, he talks about it in a long interview he did before Ungagged in November a couple of years ago, I guess, something like that. He talked about it at length, how much money they were making, how good they thought they had it. They were, Enron style, reinvesting all their money in domain purchases and keeping it all in the industry. They didn't diversify because the money was so good. And then when it all unwound, they were all just kind of like, oh shit, what are we going to do now? And obviously someone as smart as Joe figured out what he was going to do now. He was going to launch IntelliFluence and go into a totally different sector. But most of the guys that he knew back then don't have any money, and they could have all been super rich if they diversified their skills and everything at the beginning. So I think going super down the rabbit hole of something short term is fine if you're really young, siphoning all the money off and not wasting it. But if you're hoping to make a career out of something, you want something that's a little bit more long term, where your sites are going to be profitable for 10 years, not 2 years. Mitch says, no problem, guys. I've been called much worse than that before. I guess that depends which Matt, though, right? not naming any particular Matts in our industry that you wouldn't want to be called, but.
But cool. Where are we at here?
This next one I feel bad now putting on the list because apparently when I found it on Twitter or something this morning, people were talking about it like it was a new post, but apparently it's from January 25th of 2017. So this is a couple years old, but worth talking about, I guess, where the study says that basically 70% of people don't really trust a lot of these new TLDs. Like .biz, .fashion, .london, .digital.
I mean, it's interesting because Nick Eubanks is using one, isn't he, for his new project, seven-figure agency, 7f.agency. Not to give him a free plug, but he is doing the 24 hours.
I think that's a different comparison, I guess, because that's all direct traffic. He's made a funnel directing him to that site. I mean, he's not ranking stuff organically. You're not, it's not like you're going to go out and do grocery.store.
Now he doesn't, but for the future of that business, if he grows it, he will rank for how do I grow my agency? How do I keep more customers at my ad agency? Stuff like that. I'd imagine he will rank things for it because he's an SEO at heart. So he's bought that brand and that domain, I guess, with a view to whatever he wants to use it for that business going forward. I mean, I think some of them are, I mean, for me, I don't trust them less, but I can definitely see why members of the public expect to see a .com.
Yeah, so Mitch just said that, do you guys think that is because of the newness of the alternative domains, and in about 5 years or so, it will be considered normal? And that's kind of my thought too. The age groups that they surveyed here were like 25 years old and older. And if you think about it, that age group grew up with .coms, .nets, and .orgs. But I would like to see, serving younger people who have been exposed to these other TLDs for, as their indoctrination to the internet, and see what they think about it, maybe when they reach 25. I don't think that there will be a trust issue so much. I just think it's new for the people that have been around the .coms and are used to .coms for basically their entire life now.
I mean, I think some of them, the owners have sold them to such dodgy sites that, like I saw a thing about like all the spam sites on .xyz, and like Google's the only legitimate company that owns one, pretty much. So I think some of them are going to be permanently soiled. A bit like people were always suspicious in the .com era of .nets. Like .org was like,
I still don't trust .net.
Yeah, exactly. Because
I have no logic behind it. I just
because you're from that era. We learned not to trust .net because people that couldn't afford $10 for .com bought a $5 .net.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, I think over time there'll be some of them that become very trustworthy. Like if every ad agency in New York on Madison Avenue and whatever, although they've spread a lot wider now, but like if all the major ad agencies had .agency, then you would learn to trust agencies on that. If loads of SEO agencies buy them, then you'll learn not to trust it because people already know not to trust SEO agencies, thanks to the sort of 80% shyster ratio in our industry. So it depends who buys specific ones, I think, will depend who wins in that game. The same as between .com, .net, and .org. .net became not trustworthy because there were all these dodgy sites on it. The ones that end up with a load of dodgy sites on them everyone will learn not to trust, and it will just be a kind of a joke. Like, so there'll be some Garrett in the future going, "Oh, I never trust dot." I mean, .biz was even worse than .net. Remember .biz?
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to be having a nice, relaxing smoke of crack to suggest buying a .biz these days. Because
we actually just had a client that launched their new website revamp on a .us, and needless to say, we had to switch that back over to .com ASAP.
When we were still doing consulting, you know, our brand was Pilatus, and then we had Pilato.us, you know, like a play on the actual name of the fucking company. And so many fucking people got confused. So are you guys like Pilato, and then you just have .us? Like, can't you get the .com? It's like, no, it's Pilatus, and it's like Pilato.us, you know, Pilatus. Well, you know, it just seems kind of sketchy. Like, it's just like
they were complaining that it seemed sketchy.
Yeah,
like no one could figure out. Like, you meet someone, like, oh, who do you work for? Like, well, run
or they
Pilato.
email you with .com at the end of it. Paladin.us.com.
Like,
the only vanity TLD that I use is for the very minor link building efforts that I do internally. And I was talking to you about this, Garrett, is you know, if my website is domain.com, I just buy domain.co and use that for the email account to do our outreach.
mm-hmm.
We used to do that when we were an agency. We don't obviously do that kind of stuff now because we don't want to interact with the brands, keep everything white label and stuff. But we used to do like buy like the name of the brand plus intranet.com and stuff like that. So it looked like we were staff at the company or whatever. Obviously with permission of the company, because we were working really closely with them when we were an agency. Now there's like an agency between us and the client. So using their brand at all's off the question. Sometimes like even mentioning their link until the last stage of the discussion's off the question, let alone popping their brand in our email address. And
Yeah. So you guys don't call yourself an agency any longer? I feel like I'm an agency for agencies.
Yeah. I mean, I think we are an agency in the definition of it, but we don't do consulting. We don't, you know, that we're not following the agency model of, you know, you come to us, we solve your problems. You come to us with a specific order for X links this way. And same way they come to you for. So we are agencies, but not the way it's meant in this industry. Like an SEO agency does advice, does consulting, does reports.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I'm glad we're not that anymore. I don't think I could deal with that anymore.
But yeah, I would like to see a younger demographic interviewed about this. Not that it really matters, but my guesstimation is what Mitch said, that in 5 years there will be more trust for these alternative TLDs.
I think very select ones.
Yeah.
Like Mitch says, things like banks might all switch to .bank and .insurance, and then people will learn to trust those ones generally for brands they know, because they know their bank is Citibank, Citi.bank or something.
And like we talked about last week with Google adding the moniker in place of the URL, this seems like a much more viable way to do that than just create these like weird terms that, you know, one website owns. If you could just did bankofamerica.bank or, you know, statefarm.insurance, there's your moniker right there, and that kind of kills the need for the URL. But that's just Vin's idea.
the new Vinternet.
Yeah. Oh my God, my friends make those kind of comments all the time. I don't want to hear that anymore.
I'm sorry to join in.
So one more here, boardingarea.com. Who did this?
I don't have another link. What's the link? Oh no, that's that's where it cooks in the top. There's a war coming up with constant like bread.
Oh, there it is.
I thought we had a main topic, but I guess not.
We just got 10 minutes left. Is there anything else you guys want to cover?
I don't know, man. Flights are fucking expensive right now from America overseas. Like, what the fuck?
Well, they're the cheapest they've ever been in economy. It's kind of insane.
Okay,
how,
yeah.
It's kind of insane how cheap you can come to Europe now in economy. I mean, there's $370 return flights and stuff, which hasn't been seen for a good few years. It's really interesting how the carriers have managed to, especially carriers like Delta. They've got around. So what happened with Delta was they used to have, and United, they used to both have first class, business class, and no premium economy and economy. And a lot of companies decided they weren't going to buy first class tickets. So what they did was they got rid of first class and made these new, better business class products. So Polaris in the case of United and Delta One in the case of Delta, and marked the prices up enormously. But they still code it as a J class business class ticket. But it's priced. I mean, we saw like a Delta One for $10,000 return. And it's nowhere near as good as a real first class seat would be. I mean, Delta One looks amazing, but you're still packed in, your legs on.
Yeah, like right now I'm looking the 10th of September through the 14th. So
what airport should I be flying into?
Oh, don't worry, I'll take care of your flights.
I'm just saying, well, like what's the airport nearby?
Yeah.
Gatwick's the nearest one.
Yeah,
to Brighton. Yeah.
I'm probably flying into Heathrow again, but like right now, the 10th through the 14th of September, a Delta One flight is $9,500. If I move it back to the Sunday, so the 10th through the 15th, that's $4,640. It's still kind of steep, considering what the actual product is. It's an old 777, like I flew over last April, and it's just insane. Considering that in July, my flight from Minneapolis to Barcelona is in a brand new Delta One suite.
Yeah, it's pretty insane how the difference between economy being so cheap. When I booked our family trip in April, economy hadn't dropped yet. So I ended up, because the price difference was so small, of just booking business class. And the economy was ridiculous. If the economy had been like it is now, it would have been a no-brainer. We'd have been in economy 100% of the time. But I just wasn't prepared to pay nearly $3,000 for economy. I was like, are you kidding, for the three of us?
Is this conference just a one-day conference?
It is, yeah.
Okay, so that's the 13th.
There's a big party the day before on the Thursday.
Gotcha.
And so we're getting in on Garrett flew in on the Thursday before, but you're just shattered for the party, and it goes on till 2 in the morning.
Yeah, so why are you flying in on the 10th, Garrett? Why don't we fly in on the 11th and just
Well, you fly on the 10th, you arrive on the 11th.
Yeah, you leave on the 10th at night.
You lose time this way. Like on the way back, you'll fly back and land 2 hours after you took off.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
In time, so you lose a day coming to Europe, and you.
Yeah. So what happened last time was I had a flight leaving at like 7 p.m. out of Minneapolis. Got extremely drunk on the plane. Landed in England at like 8 a.m. The next day, with a whole day to kill. So obviously, I was already drunk. Can't go to bed. Drank at the train station for 4 hours, waiting for Steve to get there. Drank on the train. Drank in Brighton. Drank at the party. Passed out in my bed. So yeah, that was a rough. Can't be doing that again.
Yeah, you definitely want to come in the day before. I mean, I'm making that. I just because of when I booked the flights, I made that mistake. Are you coming to PubCon in March, Ben?
March, I think I'm going to skip out on. But I will be at PubCon Vegas, and actually, we should talk about staying in Vegas for like a few weeks this year, because there's Ungagged, there's PubCon, and there's also Rhodium weekend, and it's all within like the same couple of weeks, and they're all good for us.
We might have something else to go to in San Diego, not related to this industry.
Your other
PubCon, yeah. I think it's difficult for Garrett to get away for 3 weeks as well.
So I just ran a search for any New York airport to London Gatwick airport for the 11th through the 15th.
Well, you want to look 10th to the 15th because you want to fly on the
10th to the 14th or 10th to the 15th showed no options. There's nothing going up for me on the 10th. And it
sure, there definitely is. You're doing it wrong. Don't worry, wait to my blog post.
It's flying into Gatwick is actually hard.
For Delta Plus, it has it at $18,000.
There you go, bargain. Well, we don't need to bother getting you any points. Just get that booked and yourself.
Oh my god, that's crazy. Yeah, so I'm relying on you. Find me my $1,000 flight, please.
It'll be pretty close to $1,000. You will have to connect somewhere though.
That's okay.
The long overnight bit will be in a bed. That's all that matters.
I guess I could try to. Is there anything? Did we find anything? I guess you're going to talk about it next week. Maybe I should just fly into New York the same day if I can get a cheap enough cash business flight. Because I don't know if I can do the Aer Lingus for $2,000 out of JFK.
Well, I think like with all the connections from where you are, you're better off just doing the Aer Lingus direct to Dublin for you. Actually, because they included the connection for $100, so you can just go straight to Gatwick with Aer Lingus for what was it, like 2.8, something like that? No, 3.1, wasn't it? Which is £2,300, which I think from the middle of the country return in business is pretty good.
Cool.
If you decide to use points, then fly to EWR and go with Ben.
We'll figure it out. Just Garrett, if you want to fly in like a day early to make it cheaper, you can always just chill it with me. We have a guest bedroom here. You can hang out with my dog.
There you go.
All right, I got to wrap this up.
Yeah, me too.
But hey, I really like the midday show. We should probably consider maybe doing this as a permanent thing. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, I like this. If it works for Garrett, I mean, I guess Garrett's in the office now, so it works. Easier than before.
And we actually have 6 viewers right now, all the way to the end of the show. That's
great. Well, when the Twitter ad worked, we had 15 for most of the show. So thanks, Twitter, for not running our ad this week. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Well, we'll catch you. If you guys want to do a show next week in the day, I'm totally down.
Let's do another short one. Next week will be short as well because Garrett and I have to get like 50 news items to cover the graveyard shift during the 24 hours when we've got random guests joining us and just chatting about stuff. So we're gonna have 2 really short shows before the 24 hours. So we'll have another 1-hour edition next week. Cool. And then you've got a whole 24 hours of SEO awesomeness coming up on the 28th. If your agency wants to support and you want to book a slot as a speaker, or you know anyone who might be up for it, let us know. Just looking for a nice chunky agency-sized donation, like $500, something like that. You'll get access to the email list. Not the copy of the email list. You'll be able to send an email to the list. Your name will be on everything, and obviously you get your slot, one of the premium slots during the day when everyone's watching. Not one of the graveyard slots like me, Garrett, and Vin.
All right, guys. Good show today. I will catch you all next week.
See you all next week.
Adios.